Paramahamsa Parivajaka Sutara Sita Shishima Disney Vendrex Bhaktivedanta Manor Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivajaka Sutara Sita Shishima Disney Vendrex Shira Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Vimesika Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shamakul Radhakul Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Ki Shri Navamaya Buddha Ki Kadavati, Kadavati, Shri Purushottam, Purushottam Chitra Jagannath Shri Ganganai Ki, Shri Yamunai Ki, Saraswati Devi Ki, Samarita Bhaktivinoda Ki, Iskon Bhaktivedanta Manor Ki, Gita Gopalade, all praise to the Sambhagavati, all praise to the Sambhagavati, all praise to the Sambhagavati, all praise to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Jai. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janavalamba Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janavalamba Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalamba Jaya Kunja Bihari Janavalamba Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jayo Vraja Jana Rajana Jayo Yashoda Nandana Jayo Vraja Jana Rajana Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Girirari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janavalabha Jayo Giridhari Jayo Gopi Janavalabha Jayo Girivari Janavalabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Yashoda Nandana Jayo Vraja Janarajana Jayo Yashoda Nandana Jayo Raja Janarajana Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunjavihari Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunjavihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Oh, oh, oh. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jeo, the drummer ki Jai Jai Second Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you very much. Hello everyone here and online, offline and sidewise and everywhere. Today we are continuing on the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita called Content of the Gita Summarized. And I would invite everyone who is listening online to join us on the YouTube live chat where you can write your comments, questions, reflections. I really like to hear from you and comment on it as well. So, start with the verse 258. Yatsam darate chayam kurmon ganiva sarvashaha indriyani indriyarte babhyasa tasya pranya pratishtita Yada samharate chayam kurma naganiva sarvasha indriyani indriyartebhyas tasya pragna pratishtita. Prabhu, do you want to do? 258. Yes. Yada samharate chayam kurmoninganiva sarvasaha indriyanindriyartebhyas tasya pragyat pratishtita. Word by word, synonyms. Yada, when. Samharate, winds up. Cha, also. Ayam, he. Kurma, turtles. Angani, limbs. Iva, like. Sarvasha, altogether. Indriyani, senses. Indriyaniya artevyam, from the sense objects. Dasya, his. Pragya, consciousness. Pratishtita, fixed. Translation. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The test of a yogi, devotee or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictations of the senses. This is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restrictions. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents, like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do nots and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and don'ts, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purpose. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious person are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord, and are withdrawn otherwise. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord, instead for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise, who keeps the senses within. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnanajana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasvai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupam Kadanmayam Padanti Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tamta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebho Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's really interesting that how Krishna arranges that I have this verse to give lecture, because he wanted me to learn the essence. As I think I'm the most unqualified person to speak about this sentence, but it was really revealing to kind of prepare for it and to reflect on it and to see maybe this is what Krishna wants me to do in experience. So please, I ask for all of the blessings that I imbibe all of these principles as well with you when we are discussing it. And I actually, I was listening to some devotees speaking about this, and I kind of made a summary out of what they were saying, and I found it really interesting, and I would really be happy to share it with you guys. And especially I would like to hear also your examples, your reflections, and how you feel about it as well. On devotees and people who are online, you can listen to us. You can listen to us through the media, Manor Media, and you can also use the chat on YouTube to communicate with us live. So I will read the text again, the translation. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the turtle draws his limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Well, first thing that I have to say here, being in the manor for the last 1 year, the one thing that I really find it really challenging was to actually be firm in my consciousness. Be firm in my consciousness. Because in the beginning, when we kind of start to practice spiritual life, when we get some kind of a spiritual small realizations, like a drops of enlightenment, then we think like, oh my God, wow, this is spirituality. And every day I just have to get this drop of spirituality, of consciousness, of actually being not self-absorbed, but absorbing Krishna. But then the next step is not only coming to the level and knowing how to come to the level of we are conscious of Krishna, but actually staying on that level, not falling from that platform. And for me, this is like the whole new level of spirituality. It's actually constantly, so that's what Srila Prabhupada is constantly saying. If we want to conquer our senses, our mind, if you want to be self-realized, self-controlled, self-satisfied, we can only be if you are fully Krishna conscious, non-stop, with no breaks, no coffee break or whatever. No. Be firmly fixed in, this is what say, firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. And Sridhar Swami, he was speaking about how actually in our subtle body, we have mind, intelligence, ego, false ego, and consciousness. Consciousness is actually how we perceive things. It is kind of what they say that when we are chanting Hare Krishna, when we are chanting the mantra, that the mirror of the mind is being cleansed. It's not that actually really the heart has a mirror and we are really cleansing the mirror inside of the heart. it's actually the consciousness that is getting purified. Consciousness that how we perceive the world, what we think is important and what we see as a problem. Some people are conscious of, dog conscious, looking, going around, walking and just looking at dogs. Some are car conscious. They're looking around and just seeing different cars and noticing cars. And devotee, he's Krishna conscious, which means that everywhere he goes, he sees that everything is connected to Krishna. This is Vrindavan consciousness. Everything is connected to Krishna. Every step is joyful. It's something connected to Krishna. Every service, everything is connected to Krishna. And it's so funny because we are here in the manor. It cannot be more Vrindavan in the whole UK than it is, and other temples as well which we have. It cannot be more Vrindavan than it is, and still we can very much not see it in this way. Very much not be here for years and years, not even being conscious of it. Be conscious in other ways. So this is kind of the first point I want to say. Why is it important to withdraw the senses? What's the problem? I mean, we are here, we are devotees, we have prasadam, we have mahaprasadam, we have purified spiritual food. So why don't we just let our senses, be whatever they want? There is nothing here illicit. Everything is connected to Krishna, so just let our senses go. But in the beginning, as spiritual infants, this can be tolerated. If a baby, spills something, or a child spills something, it's almost cute. He spilled it. He did a boo-boo. But if adult does the same thing, it's irresponsible. And this is what happens here, that in the beginning, Krishna allows us to kind of enjoy this place. But then with time, Krishna doesn't want us anymore to be about us and our senses. He wants that we actually start putting Him in the center. So when we enjoy the senses, even though it can be mahaprasadam, even though it's prasadam, and if we are actually indulging in our senses, because we should honor prasadam, not indulge in it, we are actually lowering our consciousness to the material sense enjoyment on material plane. And the thing is that senses, it's not fault of the senses. The purpose of the senses is to be attracted to the sense object. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is described how when Brahma was, when different senses, actually Vishnu, was manifesting different senses. He was actually always manifesting sense organ, the sense object, and their attraction, and the demigod who is actually kind of looking up to these things. So it's like a puzzle. It's like magnets. We have different magnets, with different poles, and then you have that is your senses, and then you have sense objects. And when your sense sees the sense object, or it comes to his proximity, it's like it has to attract. It has to attract. Is the point of it. So the senses, our senses, it's not their fault that they are attracted to the sense objects. The question is, how do we allow them to get in this environment? How much and in which way we allow them to get absorbed in the sense objects? So So that's why there is like here is speaking about turtle, how he's taking his limbs inside when it's necessary. So my question is, okay, why do I have to withdraw my senses? Why don't I, let's say, I know I shouldn't eat sweets. So why don't I don't just contemplate about sweets? I'm not indulging in it, I'm contemplating. Well, it's like, the sense perception has multiple levels. How is it described in the verse 262? Just a second. No. Dhyayato vishavan pumsa sangas tashu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat kroda bijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment to them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. And in the next verse is written that anger is the all-devouring enemy who actually, because of him, we lose our intelligence, lose our memory, and we lose even in the temple, being a brahmachari, you can lose your memory of Krishna. You can forget, like, oh, what was I reading yesterday? Or what was this great point that I was so excited and it was so enlivened yesterday? I cannot remember anymore. Why? Because I'm still sense enjoying myself here. So it's so funny, in the morning I can be so elevated. Oh my God, this is so nice, and then you see like prasadam time, and then should I maybe fast? Because. Do I really know how to honor prasadam? Do I really feel elevated after prasadam, or I just feel like consciousness went to the material plane again? And then I overeat, and then I have to sleep, and then I have to, it's totally bodily, totally then, and then it's like, why am I missing enthusiasm in my spiritual life? Like, I wonder. So, it is not good to contemplate. If you are avoiding sweets, you shouldn't go and look at the sweets and contemplate. Because the senses will develop attachment. And in the worst case scenario, what will happen? You have attachment, but you are restraining yourself from the attachment. This is actually Mayavadis. This is what Mayavadis do. They are restraining themselves unpurposely. And this is not good for our spiritual practice. The easiest way to do is not get into the situation where your senses are going to see the sense objects. So you know that, Mahaprasadam is in the Prasadam room. You do not go there and let me just take a look. Don't. The moment senses see them, bam. The attraction, attachment, desire, and everything happens. And then, intelligence, and then intelligence give you, I was thinking, intelligence is what, with us. Intelligence should set us reasons why not to take. But intelligence is also a place of lust. Lust of enjoying the material senses, material world. So actually intelligence is also polluted. And then intelligence gives you reason, they say, no, you should eat prasadam, full satisfaction. We are not the one who is controlling our senses. It's Krishikesha, so he wants us to indulge now. Yeah. So what to do? How do we withdraw our senses? Okay, we see the turtles, he has limbs, and the limbs of the turtle is actually the most vulnerable part of his body. The shell is strong, and the limbs can be hurt by the limbs. In this same way, we can hurt our spiritual practice by the limbs of the senses, which is like venomous serpents. So we have to avoid the contact with the senses, with the sense object. And what will happen when we manage to do that? It will be like a turtle that is inside of his shell, even though the predator is outside, just next to him, and just knocking, hey, is anyone here? Knock, knock, get out. So when we withdraw our senses, even though the sense objects are next to us, when we learn how to do this, when we become an expert, even though the sense objects are next to us, we will not get agitated. Sounds good, huh? I know that, so we can be next to the Maha Suite and not get agitated, not get into temptation. So how do we withdraw the senses? Turtles withdraw their senses physically. Well, maybe for us it is not so convenient. I cannot flop my ears inside out. I maybe can close my eyes. Maybe it's dangerous if I'm walking or running and closing my eyes too often. I can maybe plug my nose, maybe stuff my mouth with some cotton wool or something, so I cannot taste anything. Because this is the thing, that it's not a problem until, let's say, if you have a problem with eating. It's not a problem. It's a problem when you actually start to taste. If you try to avoid something, don't taste it. The moment you taste it, the moment your tongue tastes that, sweets for my case, it will actually start to convince you, please take more, please, let's from tomorrow, let's, try, whatever from tomorrow. So we kind of mustn't allow that our senses even come to the contact. So not touch, sense of touch. So that's why we are kind of avoiding to touch things that can agitate us. It's not that we touch it and then we're like now we have to restrain ourselves, use your spiritual potencies or something. No, you don't do that. You don't touch if it is agitating you. You don't taste if it's agitating you. You try to avoid not see it if it's agitating you. And there are there are 20, I think it's 27 senses altogether. And from them, there are actually two categories that we should take into consideration. One is knowledge acquiring senses, and the second is working senses. So Jeo, do you maybe know which are the knowledge acquiring senses? Knowledge acquiring. You can guess. I'm sure that you know. I think it's smell is kind of something else, something other category, but close. So it's not smell, but knowledge acquiring senses. Nose, mouth, ear, eyes, and skin, touch. So this is knowledge acquiring senses. We acquire knowledge. That's why they say, when they're learning, are you more visual type? Are you more hearing type? Are you kinetic type? Are you this or that? So it's knowledge acquiring senses. And through them, we try to enjoy the sense objects. So what happens? Knowledge acquiring senses, it's explained in Bhagavad Gita 9:12. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch should be fully controlled and should be not allowed to engage in sense gratification. Because when I see something nice, let's say something that he considers we can enjoy this, then there is another set of senses which are called working senses. And which are those? Yes. So it's voice as well. Interesting. Voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. So these are the working senses which are after the knowledge acquiring senses got red alert, enjoyment there, let's go for it. And then legs start to we use hands, then we maybe trying to impress if it's maybe in the outs, like in the kind of streets, you can maybe a guy sees a girl and it's like, woo, look at that, let me use my voice to charm her, my moves, let's approach her with my legs, and let's try to enjoy her with our different bodily parts. So this is how it goes. It's like Bhagavad Gita 13 chapters 6 and 7 purport. When there are 5 senses of acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, then 5 working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. They actually go and fetch the sense object. So sense gratification starts with perceiving the sense object with the knowledge acquiring senses. Our sense gratification starts the moment our senses start to connect with sense object. Already sense gratification starts. And then it is just a matter of details how we acquire it. So how do we restrain our knowledge acquiring senses, which are nose, tongue, ears? Tongue, nose, eyes, ear, and touch. How do we restrain them? Well, one thing is you do not go and touch. You do not smell. Don't go and smell. Don't go to that street where there are ice creams. Don't avoid it. Don't go and smell it. I think there was even a marketing campaign where next to the restaurants you had a device who actually kind of show you a picture of a food and actually then starts to replicate the smell of the food next to you. So you can smell it and see it and maybe even, taste it, I don't know. But they want to, what they want to agitate your senses, and then they're just working senses like, oh, let's just, maybe just have a snack, And believe me, I think even the marketplace, in supermarkets, they usually put these also underneath the fruits. So the fruit smells, you pass like next to the oranges, and oranges start to smell really nice. But it's because of the smell below that actually emanate. So sometimes it's not practical, but there is one really crucial thing: how the soul actually work through the senses. The soul and the senses, there is something that is connecting these two things. What is that? You have senses, your senses of eye or ears. You have ears. Okay, yes. So material sense of ear, and you have the soul. How is soul connected to the ear? Through consciousness. Exactly. We have the jackpot here. I heard before also that I asked my spiritual master, how to chant, how to hear the chant. He said, you're not hearing with your ears, you're hearing with your consciousness. Ear is the sense, but consciousness is when actually you are using this tool. If you're not conscious, you cannot hear if you're not consciously hearing. It's like, and man-woman, typical man-woman conversations in the house, I don't know, usually it's like one partner is speaking and the other is like, yes, yes, yes. So what did I say? Yeah, you look really wonderful. Why? Because it's not, and this is like one thing that in spiritual life, I guess it's a big turnover when you understand that listening is not only being close to the sound, the source of the sound. I was on the lecture, physically at least, and I was hearing something, some noise was coming in, But the consciousness, and then the next step is like even more conscious. Not only hearing the words and informations, but actually hearing the moods, the devotion of the person. Oh my God, there is another level of hearing. And there is another level of hearing. That's why they say that Maha Mantra is unlimited, like Krishna himself. it's not like, as Shivananda Swami says, it's not like written mantra on the paper, like, letters on the... No, it's unlimited. And we just thinking that Maha Mantra is just like some sequence of words, it's insult. It's unlimited and it's unlimitedly deep. Satchidananda Swami emphasizes so much how much we can dive in and drown in the Maha Mantra with our consciousness. With our consciousness. So, expert devotee, what does he do? He empowers the senses with consciousness when he's doing devotional things. And he's withdrawing the consciousness from the senses when there is everything else. So we will just show now, because when Prasadam comes, then we will jump on it. So this is what actually means an expert yogi or expert Vaishnava. This means it. So we have really, so what is alternative to this? The alternative to this is in the verse 3, third chapter, verse number, I think it's 6, yeah. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyartan vimudatma mitvachara sa uchyate. It said, one who restrains the senses and organs of action, but whose minds dwell on the sense object, certainly delude himself and is called a pretender. This is what we were speaking, because we have these two categories of the senses, knowledge acquiring and working senses. So what does Mayavadis usually what they do? Their mind, their knowledge acquiring senses is constantly connected to the sense object, to the item of enjoyment. But they are restraining working senses to go and fetch them. So you see what's happening. We desire it, we want it, we are attached to it, but if I don't go through it, if I just stay here and simply sit, then, I will be renounced. Doesn't go like that. And that's why what happens, we send the information, we are sending in our subtle mind, we are saying to ourselves, we want something, but we don't deserve it, we are a bad person, we shouldn't get things what we want. Instead of changing our desires. This is what Krishna consciousness is all about. That we are actually, little by little, we are desiring Krishna conscious things. And not because we are practicing Krishna consciousness, but because this is actually the purity of the soul. If you pure the soul, the soul will only want Krishna. Don't think like, how Krishna consciousness, yeah, so okay, if you are in Krishna consciousness, you desire Krishna consciousness. If you are like in, if you are like in the football consciousness, football, then you want football. It's not like that. If you purify the soul, you don't have to use even Krishna conscious method. If you try these other methods which are much harder, much complicated, even impossible, and if you go and meditate on Himalayas, or you do different Western mysticism also had different ways of purifying the soul, you will find that the soul, when it's in pure state, is actually Krishna conscious. So in this way, what happens? We have to engage our senses in pursuance of God consciousness. Not restraining our working senses to fetch the senses, the fetch the object we want to enjoy. This is wrong. We already it's already game over, and now we are just trying kind of we already lost the game, but we are just trying to kind of maybe end up in thinking that we are good or something. And this happened with, different stories in Sri Bhagavatam, like mystic yogis, like Maharishi Saubhari. He was meditating for 5,000 years under the water. So nothing will agitate my senses. I'm attached very much to lust and to woman, but because I'm meditating underwater for 5,000 years, now there is no woman there, so nothing will happen. But what happened after 5,000 years? he saw even not humans, he saw two fishes. Two fishes mating. It's like how do they mate even? What do? They just rub next to each other? Or what does it do? It's just like weird. So not even see any, not even see any human like interaction. And he got agitated. He was like, and the lust kicks in, and he's like, oh yes, I want that. And then he had like I don't know how much wives, like hundreds, thousands. How many wives he had? Like ridiculously big. It's like now I have to go full house in it. So I will finish with this one quote and recap what we were speaking. Devotee asked the Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual grandfather, the founder Acharya of International Society of Krishna Consciousness, how to control the senses. What are the things to do? Devotee asked. Srila Prabhupada asked, control. It is very difficult to control. But if you put it under the control of the Supreme, it will be controlled. You want to see very beautiful things, but if you engage your seeing power to the most beautiful Krishna, then you forget other things. This is sense control. You are going to restrain to enjoy your tongue, but if you take Krishna Prasadam, then you will forget going to the restaurant. This is sense control. So, in rehearsal, we were speaking about why is it important to withdraw the senses, how it actually destroys our spiritual consciousness, how it puts us on the material level, even in the ashram, even in like trying to intensively practice spiritual life, let alone if you're outside, even maybe it's much more harder. Why is it why we cannot just kind of, contemplate, and not indulge in it, but contemplate. It's also like this, it makes our heart really, really hard-hearted. We are sabotaging ourselves and totally like, disturbing our mind. And we were saying that there were like two different categories of senses that are working in this aspect. Knowledge acquiring senses, which the moment they see the object, they start to contemplate. This is their thing. So what we do, we need to first, maybe in the beginning, it was much easier if you just restrain yourself from even being in a situation that you're going to face them, and especially not use the second senses, which are going for them. You're going to take them. And to try to actually withdraw the consciousness from the senses. And it's the easiest way is if you use your consciousness to actually think of Krishna, think of God, think of, devotees chant inside, they, recite different things. I actually really like to recite Bhagavad Gita verses. That's why I'm trying to learn them again, just to recite them. And it's really refreshing. It's really refreshing. And in this way, we're going to actually engaging and empowering the senses. And especially, it's really important for us devotees to empower the senses, fully empower the senses when we are doing devotional activities. We usually kind of, the moment we have to empower them, we actually use them to empower our mind to go elsewhere. But to empower the senses when we are doing devotional service, we are chanting, when we are hearing, to really empower the senses fully, and then we were going to go to a deep level of subtle levels of practice, and you will feel much different. Yes, so this is it. I still didn't see any comments. I don't know if it's working or not. Is this working? Any comments on YouTube? Anyone has any commendation, comments, or anything? Jero is in ecstasy, probably because he's empowering his senses now to think of Krishna. He gets the best benefit here. Now I have to hear myself. Okay, that's a bad idea. Do you have any, Vishal, any list? Anything that you want to comment? So how can we stay internal when the senses are externally, when the senses are actually bombarded? Especially, let's say, if we are like devotees, we are here now in the manor, and we are walking around. You don't have so many, naked women or whatever, around. You don't have these, posters of intoxication or whatever, and different shops. So the thing is that how then, when you go to Sankirtan or we are going to the city, how to kind of go through the city without being influenced? This is the question. And also how to not be, let's say, if we are chanting and, there are, like, devotees maybe chanting really passionately or walking around, maybe how to not be distracted by them. And devotees, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, I think, that was speaking that withdrawing the consciousness from the senses, it's really important to understand. We are so much used always empowering our senses that we actually don't perceive that we can stop this process. We can just not empower our senses. And we are doing it constantly. Sometimes we are like, anything in the world before, when we were like, I don't know, studying, we didn't hear anything what's happening behind us. And maybe our roommate could come, oh, sorry for this noise. What noise? What happened? Because we are fully, consciousness was fully on one thing, in one senses. So in this way, we actually can experiment with it and learn how to use our consciousness, which is actually the symptom of the soul. So I think that you will be really powerful in this, Ramaji. So yeah, good luck, and yeah, that's why we have to be in goodness as well to hear these things. So yeah, is that okay? Jai, then thank you very much. It was really pleasant to speak about practical things, how to practice our spiritual life and go closer to Krishna. Grantaraj, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Jai Srila Prabhupada Guru Maharaj. Going early to sleep ki jai.